You sit alone, the initial spark of ambition long faded into quiet resistance. The world outside offers no applause for the work only you see. This is the true testing ground of your character, a private arena where external validation holds no power. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private meditations, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." This simple, piercing command cuts to the heart of Stoic wisdom. Your motivation cannot depend on the crowd. It must be a fire you build and tend yourself, a discipline forged in solitude. By the end of this, you will possess a toolkit of unusual Stoic strategies to generate relentless drive from within, even when no one is watching. We will explore how to transform obstacles into fuel and how contemplating your own limits can unleash boundless energy. What single change would unlock a more disciplined version of you? The most important work you will ever do happens where no one else can see it. This is your inner citadel, a private mental fortress first envisioned by the Stoics. It is the sanctuary you build within your own mind, a place where external chaos cannot reach your core resolve. Marcus Aurelius spoke of retreating into this citadel, writing, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This is not about hiding from the world, but about constructing an unshakable source of motivation that depends on nothing and no one outside of yourself. Your drive becomes untouchable because its source is internal. True motivation flows from focusing exclusively on what is within your control, your own judgments and your chosen actions. Everything else, from praise to criticism, is merely weather outside the walls. Consider an artist in a small studio, painting for years without an audience. Each brushstroke is not applied for future acclaim, but for the integrity of the craft itself. The work is its own reward, a private dialogue between the creator and their standard of excellence. This is the discipline of the inner citadel in action. Where in your own life are you secretly waiting for applause? Identify that one pursuit where you crave external validation. Now consider what it would feel like to perform that same action purely for your own satisfaction, to hold yourself to a private standard so high that outside opinion becomes irrelevant. What if the key to sustained motivation wasn't getting more, but wanting differently? This is the core of the Stoic discipline of desire, a radical reorientation of what you pursue. The philosopher Epictetus, a former slave, identified that our greatest suffering and our deepest inertia do not come from our circumstances, but from our cravings. We exhaust ourselves chasing things outside our control, like praise, promotions, or perfect outcomes. He taught that freedom lies in the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, our judgments, our impulses, our desires, and our actions. Everything else is not up to us, our body, our property, our reputation, and our public office. When you tie your motivation to what is not up to you, you hand over your inner drive to the whims of the world. But when you desire only to act with virtue, with excellence, in this very moment, you tap into a wellspring of energy that never runs dry. Your motivation becomes the simple, powerful act of choosing integrity right now. Consider a student buried in textbooks late at night. If their only desire is the A+ grade, their motivation will flicker with every difficult chapter. They are chained to an outcome they do not fully control. But if they shift their desire to the act of learning itself, to the discipline of understanding, then every page turned is a victory. The effort itself becomes the reward, and the work becomes a consistent, self-sustaining practice. They are no longer studying for a future result, but for the present moment virtue of diligence. Think of your own most important goal. Now pause and reframe it. Instead of craving the distant finish line, can you desire the specific, virtuous actions required to move toward it? Can you want the patience of practice, the courage to begin, the honesty of self-assessment? This is how you build momentum from within, by wanting not what the world might give you, but what you can already give yourself. The Stoics believed that vividly imagining failure was one of the most powerful ways to stay motivated. They called this practice Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. Far from being a pessimistic exercise, it is a tool to strip away complacency and ignite a fierce gratitude for the present moment. By consciously contemplating what you could lose, you suddenly see the opportunity you hold right now with startling clarity. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote in his letters, "You are living as if destined to live forever. Your own frailty never occurs to you. You don't notice how much time has already passed." But then he offers the antidote. Hold every hour in your grasp, lay hold of today's task, and you will not need to depend so much upon tomorrow's. This is the urgency that negative visualization creates. It is not about fearing the future, but about fully valuing the present. When you deeply understand that your health, your resources, and your very ability to act are temporary gifts, you stop postponing your life. Consider someone who dreads their daily workout. Instead of forcing themselves with sheer willpower, they pause for a moment and truly picture a life where an injury or illness has taken their mobility away. They feel the frustration of not being able to run, to lift, to move freely. When they open their eyes, the treadmill is no longer a chore, it is a profound privilege. Their motivation transforms from a duty into a celebration of a capacity they still possess. This mental rehearsal of loss makes your current potential feel precious and urgent. So take just 1 minute right now in your mind. What is that one project, that one conversation, that one step you have been putting off? Now, close your eyes and vividly imagine that the chance to begin it is taken from you tomorrow. What is the specific regret that forms in your chest? That sharp, immediate feeling is not meant to paralyze you. It is your fuel. It is the clear, unmistakable signal of what truly matters to you, a compass pointing directly toward the action you need to take today. Nietzsche borrowed it from the Stoics: love your fate, and you will never lack a reason to move forward. This is the profound principle of Amor Fati, a love of one's fate. It is not passive resignation, a quiet surrender to the currents of life. It is an active, even joyful, embrace of every single event as the exact raw material you need to practice your strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." This is the core of Amor Fati. Your motivation does not get blocked by an obstacle, it gets fed by it. The very thing you resist becomes the fuel for your inner fire. When you stop fighting reality and start loving it, you disarm the primary force that drains your drive, which is resistance. Think of an entrepreneur whose first venture fails completely. One perspective sees only a demotivating defeat, a reason to give up. But the entrepreneur practicing Amor Fati sees this failure not as a wall, but as a necessary lesson. They actively love the fact that it happened because it burned away naive assumptions, it taught them resilience, and it provided the exact, gritty experience required to build a wiser, more robust company next time. The failure did not kill their motivation, it became their motivation. The drive to try again is now fueled by the hard-won knowledge that the failure itself made them more capable. This is how you generate momentum from within. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How is this happening for me? How is this exact situation, this very difficulty, the perfect training ground for my patience, my courage, or my creativity? So bring to mind one current challenge that feels like a drain on your energy. It could be a stressful project at work, a difficult personal relationship, or a goal that seems out of reach. Now, for just a moment, shift your view. Brainstorm one way this specific hardship could be seen as a necessary and purposeful part of your growth. How is it secretly strengthening a muscle you need for the future? When you can find that answer, the obstacle ceases to be a stop sign and becomes a stepping stone, and your motivation finds a reason to burn brighter than ever before. When your daily tasks feel trivial, the Stoics had a mental exercise to restore their grand sense of purpose. They called it the view from above, a profound meditation designed to pull you out of the narrow confines of your immediate frustrations. You are instructed to mentally rise, to pull your perspective up and out until you see your entire city as a mere dot on the landscape. You keep rising, seeing your country, then the whole earth as a pale blue sphere hanging in the immense black silence of space. From this vantage point, your small office, your overflowing inbox, and that one stubborn problem all shrink to their true proportion. They are not insignificant, but they are part of a vast and beautiful whole. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly, reminding himself, "You are a little soul carrying around a corpse." He was not being morbid. He was instilling a cosmic perspective, a humbling and strangely empowering realization that your brief life and your specific actions are a tiny, yet integral, part of a universe of incomprehensible scale. Your motivation, then, is no longer just about checking off a task. It becomes about playing your part, however small, in the grand human story. Consider a researcher alone in a lab, repeating the same delicate procedure for the 1,000th time. The work is tedious, and it is easy to feel that your effort does not matter. But by taking the view from above, that researcher can see their work differently. They are not just pipetting a liquid into a tube. They are a single node in a vast, centuries-long network of human inquiry, contributing one small day to point to a collective effort that might one day alleviate suffering or unlock a fundamental secret of nature. Their repetitive action is infused with a profound sense of duty. This practice does not make your work smaller. It makes your role clearer. It connects your solitary effort to something timeless. So take a breath and try this for just a moment with your own most pressing project. Close your eyes and mentally zoom out. See your room, your building, your town. See the continent, the planet, the solar system. Now look back at that project from this cosmic distance. How does its nature change? You are not just completing a report, you are exercising your reason, a fragment of the universe itself becoming conscious and active. You are not just having a difficult conversation, you are weaving a thread in the intricate tapestry of human relationships. From this height, no sincere effort is ever wasted. The feeling of insignificance evaporates, replaced by the quiet, relentless motivation that comes from knowing you are taking your rightful place in the order of things. Before checking your phone, the Stoics would perform a simple ritual to arm themselves against the day's distractions. This was their proactive defense against the chaos of the outside world, a way to program their inner citadel before a single demand could breach the walls. Seneca advised in his letters to spend the first part of the morning in steady and sober thought, to ask oneself, what hardship shall I avoid today? What temptation shall I conquer? This is not about dreading the day, but about defining your relationship to it in advance. You are not waiting to see what the world throws at you and then reacting. You are deciding right now how you will choose to act no matter what happens. This morning preparation is the ultimate act of taking control of your internal state. It grounds your motivation in your own character, not in the day's unpredictable outcomes. A modern version of this ritual might look like 5 minutes of quiet reflection before the day begins. You sit with a cup of coffee and state a clear internal intention. For example, you might say to yourself, "Today, I will focus on doing my best work, not on receiving praise." Or, "My goal is to respond with patience, not with frustration." The power of this practice is not in the words themselves, but in the conscious pre-commitment. You are wiring your brain for a specific quality of action before the distractions of emails, news, and other people's agendas can pull you off course. You are building momentum from within by setting your own terms for success. Think about what one sentence could set the tone for your entire tomorrow. What single intention, focused entirely on your own virtue and effort, would make the biggest difference in your day? Design that one sentence now. It is your personal mantra for generating motivation that no external event can ever take away from you. The most motivational feedback doesn't come from a boss. It comes from your own honest nightly review. This is the Stoic practice of the evening examination. A quiet conversation with yourself that transforms the raw material of your day into fuel for tomorrow. Seneca meticulously practiced this, writing in his letters about how he would interrogate his own soul before sleep. He asked, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine my entire day and go back over what I have done and said. I hide nothing from myself, I pass nothing by." This is not about self-punishment or dwelling on failures. It is a disciplined, systematic way to mine your experiences for the one thing that truly builds momentum: self-awareness. You become your own wisest mentor, holding yourself accountable not with harsh criticism, but with the clear-eyed intention to grow. This daily ritual creates a powerful feedback loop. Each review reinforces that you are the primary agent of your own progress, and that realization is profoundly motivating. The process itself builds the very discipline you seek. A simple way to begin is with 3 direct questions. First, what did I do well today? Acknowledge where you acted with integrity, focus, or courage, no matter how small the moment. This is not about ego, but about reinforcing the behaviors you want to repeat. Second, where did I fall short of my own standards? Be honest but compassionate. Did I waste an hour on distractions? Did I speak from impatience? Identify the specific moment your resolve wavered. And third, based on these answers, how can I improve tomorrow? This final question turns reflection into a concrete plan. It closes the loop, ensuring that every single day, even the difficult ones, contributes directly to your growth. Your motivation is no longer based on a distant future goal, but on the tangible, daily evidence that you are actively shaping your own character. Tonight, before you sleep, try this. Take just 5 minutes. Ask yourself those 3 questions, but focus especially on one single insight about your own discipline. What one small lesson can you carry into tomorrow that will make your inner citadel just a little bit stronger? The Stoics believed you should regularly make your life a little harder on purpose. This sounds counterintuitive, even absurd, in a world devoted to the pursuit of ease. Yet this practice of voluntary discomfort, championed by teachers like Musonius Rufus, is not about self-punishment. It is the ultimate training for your motivation, building a kind of immune system against the luxuries and hardships that can derail your focus. By willingly choosing to feel cold or hunger or inconvenience, you perform a powerful demonstration to your deepest self. You prove, through direct action, that your drive and your will are not dependent on perfect conditions. The Roman statesman Cato the Younger was famous for this, walking through the forum in unusual clothing, training himself to be indifferent to the ridicule or praise of the crowd. He was building an inner fortitude that no external event could shatter. The goal is to become the person who is not only undisturbed by discomfort, but is actually strengthened by it. Start with something simple and safe. Choose to take a walk on a brisk day without a jacket, not to the point of danger, but just enough to feel the chill. As you walk, do not complain, even internally. Instead, observe the sensation and your reaction to it. Your task is not to endure misery, but to find the motivation to keep moving, to maintain your purpose from a source deeper than your physical comfort. In that moment, you are actively constructing an inner drive that is resilient and self-sufficient. What one small comfort can you intentionally set aside this week? It could be skipping a favorite snack for a day, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or turning off the heating in your car for a short drive. This is not an act of deprivation, but a deliberate rehearsal. You are rehearsing for the day when a real obstacle appears, training your mind to access motivation on demand, proving to yourself that your resolve is far stronger than any temporary discomfort. Remembering that you will die is the Stoic secret to living and acting with purpose today. This is the practice of Memento Mori, a Latin phrase that simply means remember you must die. It is not a morbid obsession with the end, but a liberating tool to sharpen your focus on the present. The Stoics saw death not as a distant tragedy to be feared, but as a constant, gentle advisor on how to spend your limited time wisely. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He was not paralyzed by this thought. He was energized by it. This awareness injects a profound urgency into your ordinary moments, transforming procrastination into action and distraction into focus. When you genuinely internalize that your time is finite, the things that do not truly matter begin to fall away, and the work that defines your character rises to the surface. Think of an author facing the blank page, a task that is so easy to postpone. Instead of waiting for inspiration, they begin each writing session by holding a small, polished skull replica on their desk, a physical memento mori. This is not a gesture of despair, it is a powerful trigger. It asks the silent question, if this were the last day I could write, what story would I most need to tell? The answer is never a desire for fame or bestseller lists. It is a pure, urgent need to express the idea within, to fulfill the duty of their craft. The writing that follows is not for a future audience, but for the integrity of this single day. The motivation to write comes from the sobering, beautiful truth that today's opportunity may not come again. So let this question settle in your mind. If you knew this was your last month, what project would you finally give your full, undistracted effort to? Do not answer with a grand, world-changing ambition. Answer with the one thing that whispers to your soul, the endeavor that feels most aligned with who you truly are and who you wish to become. That silent, immediate answer is your compass. It points directly to the work that deserves your finite and precious time, starting not tomorrow, but in the very next hour you have free. The Stoics saw critics as an unexpected source of fuel, if you know how to listen. This is the art of contentious listening, a practice that transforms opposition from a demoralizing force into a tool for building unshakable inner drive. When you learn to hear criticism without the instinct to defend or crumble, you engage in a powerful test of your own convictions. The philosopher Epictetus, who welcomed the scrutiny of others, offered a clear framework. He said, if someone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, he was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone. This is not about accepting every negative opinion as truth. It is about using every opinion, especially the harsh ones, as a mirror to examine the solidity of your own purpose. Your motivation, when it is truly internal, does not fear dissent. It uses dissent to refine itself. Consider an innovator presenting a new idea, only to be met with immediate skepticism and even mockery from their peers. The common reaction is to feel defeated, to question the entire venture, but the Stoic practitioner trained in contentious listening does something different. They lean in, they ask clarifying questions, they listen not for the approval hidden in the critique, but for the weak points in their own plan that the critique might be accidentally revealing. This process does not dilute their motivation, it forges it in fire, by being forced to articulate their reasons, to defend their logic, and to confront blind spots. Their original spark of an idea transforms into a hardened, well-reasoned conviction. The criticism becomes the grinding stone that sharpens their resolve, and their drive to succeed is now powered by a deeper, more intelligent understanding of their own path. Think back to a recent piece of criticism you received, perhaps from a colleague, a family member, or even your own inner voice. What was the one useful insight buried within that feedback, even if it was delivered poorly? Was there a single grain of truth about your preparation, your commitment, or your assumptions? Extracting that one insight does not mean admitting you were wrong. It means you are strong enough to use any feedback from any source to strengthen your foundation. That act of finding utility in opposition is a profound declaration that your motivation comes from within, and no outside voice can ever truly extinguish it. When no one is watching, the Stoics would bring an audience of the wisest people in history into their minds. This was their private council, a mental gathering of the most virtuous figures they knew, not to imitate them slavishly, but to be inspired by their unwavering character. Seneca wrote in his letters about this practice, stating that he had certain great men as his judges and guardians. He was not performing for them. He was inviting their imagined presence to reinforce his own highest standards. The question shifts from "what will people think of me?" to a far more powerful and internal one: what would a person of true wisdom and courage do in this situation? This creates a benchmark for your actions that is entirely self-contained. You are no longer seeking the applause of the living, but living up to the silent approval of the exemplary dead. Think of a leader facing a difficult ethical choice, one where the easier, more profitable path involves a small compromise of their values. Alone in their office, they do not simply weigh the pros and cons. They close their eyes and bring to mind a figure like Socrates, who chose to drink hemlock rather than betray his philosophical principles. The leader then asks themselves not what Socrates would literally do, but how he would approach the dilemma with that same unshakable integrity. The resulting decision is not a carbon copy, but an original act of virtue inspired by a timeless model. Your own motivation gains a powerful new source. You are now acting for an audience of one, but that one is the best version of yourself, guided by the spirits of those you most admire. So choose your own Stoic mentor. It could be a historical figure like Marcus Aurelius, a respected teacher, or even a fictional character known for their fortitude. Who is the one person, real or imagined, whose quiet dignity and strength you genuinely respect? Keep that figure close in your thoughts. The next time you face a moment of private hesitation, a task you are tempted to abandon, or a truth you are reluctant to speak, pause and consult your internal counsel. What single action would make you feel worthy of their silent, approving nod? That feeling, the desire to earn your own self-respect by living up to a chosen ideal, is a fire that needs no external oxygen to burn. The single most powerful thought for self-motivation is knowing what is not your business. This is the liberating core of the Stoic dichotomy of control, a principle that acts as an energy saver for your willpower. Your motivational fuel is a finite resource, and you are likely pouring gallons of it onto outcomes you can never command. The Stoic teacher Epictetus laid out this fundamental division at the very beginning of his handbook. Some things are up to us, he wrote, our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our aversions. In short, whatever is our own doing. Everything else is not up to us, our body, our property, our reputation, our public office. The moment you absorb this distinction, you stop wasting your inner drive on the weather, on other people's opinions, or on the final results of your efforts. All that conserved energy is then redirected with laser focus to the one domain where your power is absolute, your own choices and actions in the present moment. Think of a writer toiling away on their novel. If their motivation is tied to the book becoming a bestseller, their energy is constantly leaking. Every hour spent writing is shadowed by the anxiety of whether an agent will like it, whether readers will buy it, whether critics will praise it. These are all outside their control. The work becomes a heavy burden, but the writer who practices the dichotomy focuses their entire motivational reserve on what is up to them, writing the most honest, well-crafted page they can today. The quality of the effort is their business. The commercial result is not. This shift is not a surrender. It is a strategic concentration of force. The act of writing itself becomes lighter, more focused, and paradoxically, more likely to produce a worthy result. So take a mental inventory right now. What 3 things are you currently worried about or pouring energy into? Write them down. Now, draw a simple line down the center of an imaginary page. On the left, list every aspect of those worries that is within your control, your preparation, your attitude, your next action. On the right, list everything that is outside your control, how someone will react, the final decision, the market conditions. Your commitment, starting this very hour, is to ignore the entire right column. Pour every ounce of your motivation and attention into the left. Watch as your energy stops draining into the void and instead fuels tangible, meaningful progress you can actually feel. Your most powerful motivational coach is the one you can access with a pen and paper. This is the essence of Stoic journaling, a practice far removed from a simple diary of daily events. It is an active, rigorous dialogue with your own reasoning faculty, a method to dissect the demotivating thoughts that cloud your purpose and reinforce your deepest commitments. When you write, you are forced to translate vague anxieties and swirling excuses into concrete sentences. On the page, a weak justification cannot hide. You can argue against your own procrastination, cross-examine your fears, and solidify your resolve to act with virtue, regardless of how you feel in the moment. This daily conversation is the ultimate tool for self-accountability, building a bridge between your intentions and your actions. The most famous example of this practice is the private journal of Marcus Aurelius, a work we now call his Meditations. He was not writing for publication or praise. He was actively reasoning with himself, reinforcing his principles, and coaching his own soul through the immense pressures of ruling an empire. His writings are filled with direct commands and questions like, "Enough of this wretched life and complaining. Why are you troubled? What is new here?" It is a real-time record of a man strengthening his inner citadel line by line. To begin this practice, try a simple but powerful prompt. Write a letter to your future self, dated 6 months from now. In this letter, explain in vivid detail the reasons you persisted through a current, difficult task. Describe the inner strength you cultivated by not giving up, and the integrity you preserved by seeing it through. Do not focus on the potential success or reward. Focus entirely on the character you built by continuing. This act of writing cements your motivation in the present, making your future self a witness to your current commitment. Take a moment now with your own goal in mind. Here is your starter prompt. Write down the primary reason you are pursuing your most important goal, but with one crucial rule: ignore any and all external rewards. Strip away the money, the recognition, the applause. What core value is this pursuit honoring within you? Is it discipline itself? Is it the expression of your creativity? Is it a duty to your own potential? That core value, once identified on the page, becomes an unshakable anchor for your motivation, a reason to continue that no outside force can ever take away from you. The Stoics discovered that you are not your thoughts, you are the observer of your thoughts. This subtle but profound shift in perspective is the essence of cognitive distancing, a technique that builds an immediate buffer between you and the internal critic that drains your drive. It is the practice of watching your own mind from a slight remove, seeing your judgments and narratives not as absolute truths, but as passing mental weather. Epictetus captured this perfectly when he stated, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The event itself is neutral." It is your internal narration about the event, the story you instantly tell yourself, that holds the power to motivate or paralyze. By learning to observe that story without being consumed by it, you reclaim your energy. Consider a long-distance runner hitting the proverbial wall. The thought arises, "I am exhausted, I cannot take another step." If they fuse with that thought, believing it to be the final word on reality, their body will follow the command and slow to a stop. But the runner practicing cognitive distancing notices the same thought, "I am exhausted," and silently adds, "I am having the thought that I am exhausted." This tiny linguistic space changes everything. The thought is no longer a command from headquarters, it is a signal from one department. It can be acknowledged, examined for any useful data like the need to pace better, and then allowed to pass by like a cloud without derailing the entire mission. The motivation to place one foot in front of the other now comes from a deeper place than the temporary feeling of fatigue. It comes from the conscious choice of the observer, the part of you that is always there, watching and deciding. Try this with your own mind today. Identify one recurring, demotivating thought that often surfaces when you are working alone. It might be, "This is too difficult," or "No one will care about this." The next time it appears, do not argue with it or try to push it away. Simply notice it. Say to yourself, there is the thought that this is too difficult." By naming it, you separate yourself from it. You are no longer the thought, you are the awareness that witnessed the thought. In that small space of awareness lies a boundless source of motivation, untouched by the temporary storms of your mind. In a world of constant noise, the Stoics found that strategic silence was the birthplace of unwavering purpose. This is not the silence of loneliness or inactivity, but a chosen quiet, a deliberate clearing of the mental landscape where your own voice can finally be heard. Seneca championed this retreat into stillness, writing in his letters, "Nothing, to my way of thinking, is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and pass some time in his own company." This self-communion is not about doing nothing. It is about creating the fertile ground where your internal motivations can take root and grow, far from the chatter of opinions and the demands of the outside world. By periodically withdrawing from the flood of external input, from social media feeds to endless entertainment, you drain the swamp of distraction. What remains is the clear, still water of your own values, your own reasons for getting up and acting with integrity. This silence is not an empty void, it is a workshop for the soul. Consider implementing a silent hour into your own day, a period dedicated solely to deep work or quiet reflection. This is not a passive break, but an active ritual. You remove all distractions, turning off notifications and screens, creating a sanctuary of focus. In that hour, you are not cut off from the world, you are reconnecting with the source of your drive. The goal is not to achieve a specific output, but to strengthen the mental muscle that operates from a place of intrinsic purpose, not external reaction. The noise of the world constantly tells you what to want and why you should want it. Silence is where you remember what you truly value. So your challenge is to schedule just 15 minutes of complete and agenda-less silence today. Do not try to solve a problem or plan your week. Simply sit, breathe, and be present with the flow of your own thoughts without judgment. Notice what ideas, what values, what quiet intentions rise to the surface when you stop listening to everyone else. What is the one thought that keeps returning when all other voices are gone? That recurring whisper is often the compass needle of your deepest motivation, pointing you toward the work that truly matters to you. The Stoics believed that a fragmented life leads to a fragmented will. A unified life creates unstoppable momentum. When your daily actions are scattered across conflicting desires and principles, your motivation leaks away in a dozen different directions. You feel pulled apart, your energy diluted by pursuits that do not speak to your core. But when every part of your existence, from your career to your conversations, is guided by a single, overarching purpose, a powerful synergy emerges. Each action reinforces the next, building a self-sustaining drive that feels less like effort and more like alignment. This is the Stoic ideal of a life lived in accordance with nature, which for them meant living a life of virtue and reason. Your purpose becomes the central axis around which everything else revolves, providing a constant, internal compass that never loses true north. This coherence is rooted in the profound Stoic concept of Apatheia, the interconnectedness of all things. The Stoics saw the universe as a single, living, rational entity where every part has a role to play in the harmonious functioning of the whole. Your life is not a random collection of disjointed events, but a unique thread woven into this cosmic tapestry. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this constantly, writing, "What does not benefit the hive does not benefit the bee." Your motivation, then, springs from understanding your role within this greater whole. When you act with integrity in your work, you are not just completing a task, you are contributing a note of reason to the universal symphony. When you practice patience with your family, you are strengthening the bonds of the human community. Every virtuous action, no matter how small, resonates with this grand interconnectedness, making your life a coherent and meaningful expression of a single principle. Consider a person whose core principle is the virtue of justice. They do not compartmentalize this value. At their job, they advocate for fairness and equity, not for a promotion, but because it is the right way to conduct business. Their fitness regimen is not about vanity, but about maintaining the physical health and discipline required to serve others effectively. Even their family time is infused with this principle, as they listen deeply and act with unwavering fairness. For this person, there is no separation between work life, personal life, and moral life. It is all one life. The motivation to exercise on a tired morning is the same motivation that drives them to speak up in a difficult meeting. It is all fueled by the same core commitment. Their energy is not divided but unified and amplified. Take a moment with your own life. Write down the single most important principle that guides you. Is it courage? Is it compassion? Is it the relentless pursuit of truth? Now, choose one specific area where you often feel a lack of motivation, perhaps your daily work or a personal project. Examine it through the lens of your core principle. How does this task, in its essence, serve that principle? If it feels disconnected, how could you reframe your approach to create that alignment? When you can see your most mundane effort as a direct expression of your deepest value, procrastination loses its grip. The work is no longer an isolated chore. but a vital practice in the art of being who you have chosen to be. What if procrastination isn't laziness, but a misplaced form of the Stoic practice of preparation? Your impulse to delay a daunting task is not a character flaw. It is a clumsy, internal alarm bell ringing, warning you that you are mentally unready. The Stoics understood that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it, and that ability is forged through a specific kind of mental rehearsal. Seneca advised his friend Lucilius to pre-rehearse future trials, writing, "The mind should be exercised beforehand in the calm consideration of all that can happen." This is not anxious worry. It is the deliberate, calm process of walking through the steps of a challenge in your mind, preparing your response before your emotions can hijack your resolve. When you procrastinate, you are feeling the weight of the unknown. Your mind, seeking to protect you from potential failure or discomfort, suggests avoidance. But by shifting that avoidance time into preparation time, you transform a moment of weakness into a strategic exercise in building momentum. Imagine someone dreading a crucial, difficult conversation with a colleague. They have put it off for days, the anxiety building each time they see an unread email from that person. This is the classic procrastination loop, but instead of forcing themselves to make the call immediately, they take a different approach. They sit quietly for 10 minutes and engage in Stoic premeditation. They mentally walk through the conversation. They visualize their colleague reacting with anger, and they rehearse their own calm, measured response. They picture their colleague becoming defensive, and they prepare to listen with genuine empathy. They even imagine the conversation going surprisingly well. By the end of this mental rehearsal, the unknown has been mapped. The task is no longer a terrifying monster lurking in the fog, but a series of potential scenarios for which they have already prepared their virtuous responses. The dread dissipates, replaced by a quiet readiness. The motivation to finally have the conversation now comes from a place of competence and control, not from a frantic sense of duty. So take the one task you are currently avoiding. Do not try to tackle the whole thing at once. Instead, grant yourself just 5 minutes. Close your eyes and simply visualize yourself starting. Picture the very first small, physical action. If it is a report, see your hands opening the laptop and typing the first sentence of the introduction. If it is a messy garage, feel yourself walking to the door and picking up the very first item. Your only job in this mental space is to see yourself begin with clarity and calm. This act of premeditation dismantles the barrier of the unknown, turning procrastination's signal of distress into your most powerful tool for prepared, purposeful action. An obstacle to a Stoic is not a wall but a weight. It is the exact resistance that makes your motivational muscles stronger. This is the profound twist in perspective that turns every setback into a gift. A life without challenges would be a life without the need for courage, a journey with no call for perseverance, a path that never asks you to practice self-discipline. Without these tests, the very sources of your internal drive would remain dormant and unused, like a muscle that has never been strained. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, facing invasions and political turmoil, wrote a single sentence in his private journal that captures this entire philosophy. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Read that again. What stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle is not just something to be overcome. It is the very substance of your progress. The barrier itself is transformed into the path forward. Think of a software developer whose most promising project is abruptly cancelled after months of dedicated work. The immediate feeling is one of crushing failure, a waste of time and talent. The common reaction is to lose motivation, to question one's own skill. But the developer who applies this Stoic lens does something different. They see the cancelled project not as a dead end, but as essential training. The long hours taught them deep focus. The technical puzzles they solved built a new level of problem-solving expertise. The collaboration with teammates, even on a failed venture, sharpened their communication skills. That specific failure became the weight that strengthened their professional resilience. A year later, when a new, even bigger opportunity arises, they are not starting from scratch. They are armed with the hard-won endurance and practical knowledge that only that particular disappointment could have provided. The failure did not block their career, it built the foundation for their next success. So take a moment and look back at a past failure of your own. It could be a project that fell apart, a goal you did not reach, or a plan that went completely off course. Now make a simple list. What 3 specific strengths or insights did you gain exclusively from that experience? Did it teach you patience? Did it reveal a hidden stubbornness you needed to confront? Did it force you to become more creative with limited resources? That list in your hands is the concrete evidence that the obstacle was not a stop sign, but a training manual. It is the proof that you are stronger now precisely because of what once stood in your way. The Stoics were minimalists not for aesthetics but for efficiency, to save their best energy for what mattered. They understood that your willpower is a finite reservoir, and every trivial choice you make throughout the day, from picking an outfit to deciding what to eat for lunch, draws from that same precious pool of mental energy. By deliberately simplifying your life, you are not depriving yourself. You are conducting a strategic conservation of your most vital resource, your capacity for disciplined, self-motivated action. Seneca was a fierce critic of luxury for this very reason, arguing that wealth and possessions create a constant drain on our attention. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." His poverty was not about having nothing, but about being consumed by the desire for more, a desire that scatters your focus and exhausts your resolve before you ever begin your real work. The goal is to pare down the unnecessary so that your full motivational force can be directed toward the endeavors that define your character. Consider a writer who has adopted a personal uniform, wearing virtually the same type of outfit every day. Their workspace is equally sparse, containing only their computer, a notebook, and a pen. This is not a quirky personality trait, it is a highly functional system. By eliminating the dozens of minor decisions about clothing and by removing visual clutter from their environment, they arrive at their desk each morning with their decision-making faculty intact, fully charged and ready to be poured into the difficult, creative work of writing. They have not used up their discipline on choosing a shirt, they have saved it all for building sentences. Your own life is filled with similar opportunities for strategic simplification. Where is the clutter, either physical or mental, that is silently taxing your willpower? Identify one single area, perhaps your wardrobe or your morning routine, that you can streamline this week. Could you plan your meals in advance? Could you create a standard daily schedule that eliminates the question of what to do next? This act of simplification is not about living with less. It is about creating more space for the motivation that drives your most meaningful work. For the Stoic, success is not an outcome, it is a verb. It is the act of doing your best with what you have. This philosophy redirects your entire source of satisfaction from a distant, uncertain finish line to the very next step you take. The ancient Stoics called these right actions kathakonta, or appropriate acts. Your motivation becomes tied to the integrity of your effort, the focus you bring, the diligence you exercise in this single moment. When you derive your fulfillment from the quality of your action, a profound shift occurs. You become immune to the demotivating sting of failure and the hollow hunger for external praise. The philosopher Epictetus framed this with the analogy of a game. He said that while the unwise person plays only to win, the philosopher plays to play well. Your goal is not to control the final score, which is always partly in the hands of fortune, but to control the excellence of your own performance. Consider a salesperson who adopts this mindset. Their day is no longer a roller coaster dictated by closed deals. Instead, their motivation is sourced from a different well. They find their success in the clarity of their presentation, in the honesty of their advice, and in the genuine help they offer to every single person they speak with, regardless of whether a sale is made. A customer who walks away empty-handed is not a failure. It was an opportunity to practice the virtues of patience and truthful communication. The act itself was the victory. This is how you build a self-sustaining engine of drive. Your effort is no longer an investment in a future reward that may or may not arrive. It is a reward in and of itself, paid to your character in the very moment you act. So take one specific task from your own life, perhaps the one you most associate with a desired outcome. Now make a quiet commitment. For the next week, you will judge your success in that task by one metric and one metric alone: the quality of your effort. Did you act with focus? Did you proceed with integrity? Did you use your resources wisely? The final result is now officially none of your business. Watch as the weight of expectation lifts and a cleaner, more resilient form of motivation takes its place. The Stoics knew that willpower is finite, so they built motivation into the architecture of their daily lives. They understood that relying on fleeting feelings of inspiration was a recipe for inconsistency. Instead, they designed small, repeatable ceremonies to bridge the gap between intention and action, automating the first step so that momentum could take over. This is not about rigid schedules, but about crafting personal triggers that tell your mind it is time to engage. A ritual is a physical anchor for a psychological state, creating a neural pathway that makes the desired behavior more automatic with every repetition. The mental effort required to begin a difficult task is immense, but a ritual lowers that barrier, making your highest intentions the default setting for your day. Roman Stoics like Marcus Aurelius began each morning not with a frantic check of messages, but with a quiet meditation on the challenges ahead. He would mentally rehearse his principles, setting his internal compass before the world could pull him off course. This was not a passive prayer, but an active programming of his mind. He was building a ritualized foundation of resolve that would support him long after his initial willpower had been spent. You can apply this same principle to your own most dreaded task. Design a starting ritual, a simple sequence of actions that signals to your brain that it is time to focus. This could be as simple as lighting a specific candle only when you are about to begin your deep work, or meticulously arranging your desk with a particular pen and notebook. The act itself is unimportant. What matters is the consistent pairing of this physical action with the mental state of focused effort. Over time, the ritual itself becomes the catalyst, summoning your motivation on command. What one small, repeatable action could serve as the official starting gun for your most important work? Choose something sensory, something you can see, touch, or smell. It is not about superstition, but about building a reliable bridge from hesitation to action, ensuring your inner drive is never left waiting for a feeling that may never come. Your private discipline, according to the Stoics, is not a selfish act but a contribution to humanity. This is the concept of the Cosmopolis, the world city, where every rational being is a citizen. The Stoics saw the universe as a single, interconnected community bound by shared reason. When you choose to act with integrity, to focus when no one is watching, and to master your own desires, you are not just improving yourself. You are strengthening the entire fabric of this rational community. You are playing your part in maintaining the order of the whole. Marcus Aurelius, while leading an empire, constantly returned to this duty in his private writings. He instructed himself, what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. Your work, your discipline, is never just for you. It is a thread you weave into the universal tapestry, and the strength of your thread determines the strength of the entire cloth. This transforms motivation from a personal quest into a social and even cosmic responsibility. Your persistence becomes a quiet service to everyone. Consider a teacher preparing a lesson plan late into the night for a small online class. From the outside, it looks like a solitary task, but through the Stoic lens, this diligence is a profound act of service. The teacher is not just organizing information. They are honoring the chain of knowledge, passing on the light of reason to their students, who will then carry it forward into their own lives and communities. The teacher's private discipline, their choice to prepare thoroughly, directly serves the common welfare by nurturing the minds of fellow citizens in the cosmopolis. It is a contribution to the rational order of the world itself. So bring to mind your own most important personal project, the one that demands your self-motivation. Now ask yourself, who beyond you does this effort ultimately serve? Is it your family who benefits from your growth? Is it your future customers who will receive a better product born from your integrity? Or is it the ideal of excellence itself, an ideal that uplifts everyone when it is embodied by even one person? Recognizing this larger purpose infuses your solitary work with a profound sense of meaning, turning every moment of discipline into a quiet gift to the world you share. The Stoic goal was not to feel nothing, but to be free from the passions that hijack your motivation. They called this state Apatheia, a profound inner stillness where your actions are no longer dictated by the frantic storms of fear, envy, or desperate desire. This is the bedrock of self-generated drive, the calm center from which consistent, rational action naturally flows. Do not mistake this for the modern meaning of apathy, a listless indifference to the world. Stoic apatheia is the opposite. It is a vibrant, engaged clarity, a mind so undisturbed by chaotic emotions that it can pour all of its energy into what must be done. The ideal Stoic sage was not an unfeeling robot, but a person whose inner citadel was so secure that external events could not command their choices. They experienced the full range of human feeling, but they were not enslaved by it. Their motivation came from a deeper well than temporary excitement or the dread of failure. Consider two traders in a volatile market. One is whipped around by every headline, buying in a frenzy of greed at the peaks and selling in a panic of fear during the dips. His motivation is a reactive spark, entirely dependent on the market's mood. He is exhausted, his decisions erratic. The other trader, practicing apatheia, feels the same market pressures. He notices the urge of greed and the pang of fear, but he does not let them take the wheel. He acknowledges these emotions as passing weather, then returns his focus to his reasoned strategy, executing his plan with disciplined consistency, whether the screen is flashing red or green. His motivation is not a spark, but a steady, self-contained flame. It is fed by his commitment to his process, not by the emotional roller coaster of potential gains and losses. His calm is his greatest asset. Now, bring to mind one emotion that consistently derails your own motivation. Is it the fear of others' judgment that keeps you from sharing your work? Is it the lust for immediate recognition that makes the slow, quiet grind feel unbearable? Identify that single, disruptive passion. Then ask yourself this simple, powerful question. If that emotion were completely absent, if you felt a calm, clear-headed confidence, what would the very first rational action be? Not a grand, sweeping gesture, but the first small, logical step. That clear, unemotional action is the doorway. Taking it is how you stop being a passenger to your feelings and start being the pilot of your purpose. Life, to a Stoic, is not a finite game to be won, but an infinite game of self-mastery that you play for its own sake. In a finite game, players are known, the rules are fixed, and the objective is to end the game by winning. An infinite game is played for the very purpose of continuing the play, where the only true opponent is your former self. This distinction transforms your entire relationship with motivation. When your goal is to win, to get the promotion, to finish the project, to reach a certain weight, what happens when you succeed? The game ends, and a hollow question often follows: what now? The pursuit of virtue, however, is an infinite game. There is no final state of perfect wisdom or flawless character to be reached. The goal is simply to keep playing, to keep practicing courage, justice, and temperance with every single day you are given. The philosopher Seneca reflected on this, writing that as long as you live, keep learning how to live. Your progress is not measured by trophies on a shelf, but by the quiet consistency of your efforts, a process that never truly concludes. Think of a master musician who has flawlessly performed a complex concerto. They do not retire their instrument. They immediately seek out a more challenging piece, or they strive to imbue the same concerto with even deeper emotion and technical precision. The applause fades, but their motivation does not, because it was never about the final bow. It was about the endless dialogue between their skill and the music itself. The practice room is their arena, and every session is another move in the infinite game of artistic expression. This perspective eliminates the existential crash that often follows a major achievement. There is no what next, because the game is always on. Every morning presents a fresh opportunity to play, to be a little more patient, a little more focused, a little more resilient than you were the day before. The motivation becomes self-perpetuating because the satisfaction is found in the act of playing itself, not in a distant and final victory. So take one of your own long-term goals, perhaps a fitness aspiration or a creative project. Now reframe it entirely. Stop seeing it as a finish line you will one day cross. Instead, see it as a continuous practice, a craft you are committed to honing for the rest of your life. The objective shifts from losing 20 pounds to the daily practice of respecting your body's health. The goal is no longer to write a book, but to live the identity of a person who writes with integrity every single day. In this infinite game, there are no failures, only feedback. Every stumble is just a lesson that teaches you how to play the next move with more wisdom. Your motivation is no longer chasing a destination. It is fueled by the endless discovery of your own potential. Momentum from within is the quiet engine of a life well lived. These Stoic strategies are not isolated tricks but interlocking parts of a single system designed to build unshakable self-sufficiency. The view from above lifts you above daily frustrations, revealing your small but vital role in a vast cosmos. Amor Fati teaches you to embrace every obstacle as fuel, transforming resistance into forward motion. And the Inner Citadel stands as your private fortress, where your motivation is shielded from the shifting winds of external opinion. Together, they forge a discipline that needs no audience. The philosopher Epictetus offered the ultimate key to this freedom when he wrote, "He is free who lives as he wishes, who cannot be compelled, impeded, or constrained, whose choices cannot be blocked, whose desires are fulfilled, whose aversions do not occur." This freedom is found in one place by caring only for what is truly within your power, your judgments and your actions. So now the real work begins. With all of these practices before you, which one will you choose to build first? Which single strategy, whether it is the evening examination of your day or the loving acceptance of your fate, will become your foundation for generating your own relentless drive? Share the one that resonated most with you in the comments below, and join a community of others committed to the quiet, powerful work of self-mastery.